This is The Healthy Healer, where true voice is your medicine. This is where we help doctors and other healers navigate through the challenging times by learning from the best minds in the healing industry. Laugh, cry, and be surprised. It's entertainment, education, and inspiration so you can continue to be the unique and amazing healer you were destined to be. Welcome to humanity. Welcome to The Healthy Healer with Dr. Fred.
Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Fred, and welcome to the next episode of The Healthy Healer. And today we have a very special guest who was referred to me because he's up to so many great things. The person who referred him to me told me that we would probably have a great interview, and I'm really looking forward to talking to Clayton Thomas today. Clayton hails from Nashville, Tennessee, where he is this morning, and I'm here in California, so we're about 3 time zones away. And we had our own little technical problem, slight problem this morning, which each and every one of us seem to have many times per day. So it's no longer an oddity to be fighting technology and finding our way to the miracles of unified intention, of an actual meeting where 2 people get together for any reason whatsoever and find the time and space to do so. Clayton and I were able to negotiate that, and here we are on StreamYard delivering a conversation that hopefully you all will enjoy. Clayton Thomas, thank you for being on The Healthy Healer. It's really great to have you.
Thanks for having me. We get to navigate technology in order to have a conversation. We get to navigate technology to make sure we're healthy. So it's
exactly
one or the other.
Let's really take a look at that. So first of all, Clayton, why don't you tell me and tell us a simple question, but sometimes throws people back, and that is like, Clayton Thomas, who are you?
I'm just a guy. I'm really fortunate to, I think unlike many people that have delved into the health and performance space, I was actually born into it. So I've got about 45 years in integrative health and human and animal health from growing up in an integrative veterinary practice. And throughout my life, being able to be in the lab when I was a kid and studying mineral supplementation when I was 8 and being a collegiate athlete. And then after graduating with a degree in humanities, because I studied so many different subjects, they just gave me a degree with a focus in business, communications, and kinesiology. My career took different turns. I've always had a focus on communication. So I started in sales, but very shortly after I got out of school, I was tapped by a friend to say, hey, you should use your nutrition background from a sales standpoint. And I realized that the opportunity to create and study more, and once you get out of school, you really learn what you want to learn. You just learn how to learn before.
Exactly.
And what I've seen over my career was about 19 years ago, my entire philosophy took a 180. And we've always been indoctrinated to think that everything that we need to do is about addition. Whether we need to change our lifestyle, we need to change our diet, we need to exercise more, we need to take supplements, we need to do these things. And through a conversation with a friend of mine who actually had a middle school education, he dropped out because school wasn't for him. So he's, hey, look at this. I don't understand any of it, but I think you'll like it. And my perspective flipped in a second. It's like God tapped me on the shoulder and said, follow this. But it was really the understanding that this philosophy of creating greatness in the human body is actually a really simple equation, but it's addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
So the foundational piece for our health, our performance, comes around detoxification and the removal of heavy metals, environmental toxins. And now there's a greater understanding of the virome, the biome, the microbiome, and the parasites and fungus and all of these different environmental components and how they interact with this amazing operating system. And it is a very intricate dance that is constantly trying to create and find homeostasis and make sure that the right entity is in absolute control, which is us. But we're navigating this environment with all of these other little critters that live and function and exist within us. And that's been the goal. And eight and a half years ago, I got introduced to the woman that I was really made to serve. And it's through the combination of the two of us with Dr. Christina Rahm and her creations that we've been able to start actually creating real quantum solutions for the reversal of aging, for the improvement of performance beyond anything that I think we've seen before, and creating a blend of biotech science with natural components. And that's where it's taken us. And it's been interesting because this health game, I'll say, is something that is extremely simple to resolve if you do it right. It's not complex, but you have to do it properly. And whether it's, and if it's the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional, it's something that they all have to be done simultaneously because of that balance that you have to have the means of addressing all of them, but they're not all done at the same time. So it's been fun.
Yeah, fascinating. Really great. I have had a few different conversations with some people who are committed to reversing aging, probably three names that you might know of. Peter Diamandis is somebody who I've had some cool conversations with, as well as Jeffrey Gladden down in Texas. I'm not sure if you know about him. And then let's see, there was a third one that came to mind, and now I've forgotten the name. So I'll get back to you when I remember. But people who are really up to making a difference and turning around aging, like really taking a look at what is aging, and if we do want to live, how can we live our greatest life? I guess the other name I was thinking about was David Asprey. So we start looking at all three of them and you, and people who are, it is really like a balance. What does it mean to live up to 120 years? What does it really look like? Not only living to 120 years, but thriving and improving each year between now and then. When I spoke with Dr. Gladden, he likes to speak that 100 is the new 30. And I think that's the name of his book. And so he calls himself 27 because he's in his 70s. And he's in his 80s, he'll be 28. When he's in his 90s, he'll be 29. And when he's 100, he'll be 30. And that's one way to look at it. And there is a reductionistic, minimalistic way of going at it that I think each of you have. Now, on the one hand, Diamandis likes to add certain things for longevity. He's got a whole program there, Life Force. And Asprey too, supplementations, pounds of supplementations, it seems, every single day. But it sounds like in your world, it's a matter of doing the dance with the critters, doing the dance with the toxins, seeing who is addressing and parasiting and symbiosing with us, and managing them sequentially in a certain order, in a certain pattern, so that our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health are all taken care of simultaneously, but not at the same time. Like it sounds like there's things to do, moves to make, and things to either eat or avoid, or things to see or never see, or things to get involved with or stay away from, that allow us to live a quality life between now and the day that we transition. Is this an accurate assessment of what you're speaking of?
Yeah, it's really a good start. And I think the important part when we look at reversing aging, I think that people have to understand the break between chronological, the time that we're here, biological age is measurable, right? So if 100 is the new 30, you can actually measure that through heart rate variability and some other mechanisms. You can look at biological function and go, okay, you know what? You've been here for 95 years, but biologically, you're functioning internally. This operating system is functioning like it's 32. We can do that now. And that's really the key. And there are things that you have to add, but I think the difference is if you have an understanding of quantum physics and if you have an understanding of nanotechnology and bioscience engineering, like Christina does, and I'm really fortunate that I outkicked my coverage with my wife, that there's always clues in different areas. You hear the conversation about microdosing in so many different aspects. You hear the mycology community talking about, oh, you can microdose mushrooms, you can microdose psilocybin, you can microdose acid, you can do these things. They're playing with different things to improve neurotransmission in some aspects. The same thing applies to nutrition, right? Because if that concept works in those areas, because of how the human body functions, we are not physical, right? And it's important that people begin to grasp this as a mass versus just a few people having an understanding of this. We used to think you have to eat quantity in order to get quality, and that your body uses the massive things to synthesize. That's actually not true. The body is actually using the frequencies and using the energy and the intention of whatever you're consuming. And if you understand how to tinker with that and know that certain compounds, certain plants, certain different biological sources like spirulina or chlorella or black cumin seed oil, you don't need massive amounts of them. What you need is strategic combinations of the right quality. And if you combine them with other ingredients, they amplify one another and they compound their benefits. So you don't need a lot of something. You just need to be very strategic in how you do it. And when you do that, just like you can tweak a computer operating system, that you can take an old computer, and if you upgrade the operating system and you upgrade the microchips, and this is actually the underlying secret of the whole thing, it's actually bioavailable silica. And that's the foundational piece of what makes us so special, that we need more silica, and it's how and where you get it. And that's what Christina's really tapped into with our foundational products. But if you understand that you can constantly work to upgrade, just like you're hitting Control Alt Delete on your laptop or on your computer, that you're getting it to reset and refresh continually so it's not bogged down with all of this extra information that's not being used, then your operating system is going to work more efficiently. If it works more efficiently, it's younger. And if you continually clean it out, if you're continually giving it the opportunity to upgrade, the longer that we're here, the more efficient we become, right? Because we learn from experience. That's why we're here. We're here to learn. And as we become more efficient, we're able to use things more effectively. And as you do those things, you begin to understand that from a day-to-day standpoint, you can get things done. They don't have to be a burden. And then you can do more fun things, which means your longevity improves. And I'll give you the best example, actually, because my in-laws, I was just with them yesterday in Missouri. My father-in-law is 84. My mother-in-law is 81. My father-in-law goes hunting 3 to 4 times a week. My mother-in-law is never has never stopped moving. She's always cooking, she's cleaning, she's making new stuff. She's been teaching piano for kids in the community, for people in the community for 60 years. And she doesn't stop. She still keeps 5 to 7 kids that are working with her on the piano every week. She doesn't take vacations longer than 3 days because she doesn't want to miss being with the kids. And this is the key, that if you do the things to allow yourself to keep moving and stay active, you can go a long time. Just like any tractor. If you are constantly using a tractor can run for 30 to 50 years, right? If you just keep it oiled, but if you let it sit in the field, it will rust and corrode and be useless and basically die in a year or two.
Yeah.
And this is the lesson of activity. And the more you move, the longer you'll function. The more you keep your joints oiled and you keep everything, the fluids going, you're going to be here a long time. But you have to understand that we are in an environment where if you're not taking care of what's in this environment, you are going to be a victim of the outside environment because it's designed to poison us.
Fascinating. That's really beautiful. And really, I really do understand and get what you're saying. You talk about, I've never really listened, I've never heard anybody speak before, but that's not because others aren't saying it. It's only because I haven't heard it. This importance of bioavailable silica. Tell us a little bit more about why that is the magic ingredient.
So what's interesting is the aspect of intelligent design is all around us. And you really can't argue it when you look at it in depth. So when we look at our planet, it's 70% water, basically seawater, which is really important because of the sea salt and trace minerals that actually make us. But the environment around us consists of 70% water, 30% silica, and then a mixture of other components. The human body consists of 70% water, 30% silica, and a mixture of other components. We come from our environment. We are our environment. And eventually, we will go back to our environment. But when you start to understand the importance of bioavailable silica and orthosilicic acid and how you source it and what it does, you can look at a computer, like I was saying. The most important and powerful piece of a computer is the microchips. And what are they? They're silicon microchips. And that's why Silicon Valley is so important in the United States. The clues are there that without that silica, the body actually can't metabolize things. So you'll hear people talk about glutathione. You'll hear people talk about collagen synthesis now. And both of those, the assimilation of the amino acids that the body needs to create endogenous glutathione and endogenous collagen are not just due from eating things that have those amino acids in them and then it happens. The bioavailable silica has to be along with them because it acts as a catalyst to cause that chemical reaction to take place. So you could take glutathione supplements or you can take collagen supplements, but if you're not getting the bioavailable silica, the proper kinds of bioavailable silica, you're not going to get the full benefit of what you're doing because you're basically, in essence, making a cake without the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're just not going to get something that ends up turning out the way that you'd expect it to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's not been discussed. I don't think it's really been looked at very effectively because the types of silica that people use, if you look at most collagen supplements, if you look at the packaging, you'll see as an other ingredient, there's usually a form of silica that they put on there because it's known that you have to have silica, but it's important on what kind you get. And what's really unique is that nature's created a crystal that is the most effective mechanism for actually cleaning up the environment. It's a class of these zeolites. So you've got quartz and asbestos and heulandite and bentonite, many people are familiar with. And there's clinoptilolite, and which is the unique one of the group. So you have this unique honeycomb negatively charged crystal that's like a little green garbage truck in environmentally that will trap toxins. But what makes it special is what it consists of is a massive amount of bioavailable silica, and it exchanges this silica for the heavy metals and for the environmental toxins. So it's actually delivering bioavailable silica while removing the bad guys. And this is something that's been used in biotech for decades because it can be used as a carrier mechanism for other nutrients or pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really that little, I won't say the secret, but it's the most important piece for us now of having the tools that allow integration with the body to communicate with the body to clean it up, but at the same time, give the body what it needs to start activating the natural processes of regeneration, right? Because you can have all the tools, but think of power tools, right? You can have all the power tools in the world, but if you don't have a power outlet,
Yeah.
you got nothing. The bioavailable silica is basically that power outlet that just supercharges everything.
Fascinating. And how do we get bioavailable silica into our system? It's not a matter of just eating it or injecting it either. It sounds like there's a whole process of how to activate or regenerate the stores that we have, or how to create the capacity to make the emptiness so that bioavailable silica can be delivered in this exchange mechanism. How do we do that?
We get a lot of bioavailable silica from plant sources because it makes up plants, it makes up people. So you're going to get some from there. But what the published literature has shown is that clinoptilolite, this little, basically the same, not basically, the same rock that they use to make kitty litter, happens to be the same thing that cleans up the rest of the environment, that holds the most important little thing we need. But you have to figure out how to activate it. So what Christina had figured out in her process, I've worked in this space for about 18 years, but she's been 20 years in biotech and has 3 PhDs, a PsyD, an MD, an EDD, and a postdoc from Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering. And she was a former adjunct professor in oncology and hematology at Johns Hopkins. She's a little bit smarter than I am.
Mm.
But she created, let me see if I do this right, Clean Slate. This is our foundational little piece. And what it is a solution that consists of a fractured, cleaned up, amplified tilolite crystal that is broken apart. So you can think of this being like a big honeycomb, and she's figured out how to break it apart into much smaller fragments, like individual pieces of the honeycomb that are small enough to work through the human body, that still have the capability, and that will grab onto these toxins, the heavy metals, the environmental toxins, the mold spores, the bacteria, viral fragments, which is really important because of injections over the last 3 years that people are concerned about. Solve that problem. But while it's doing that, it's also exchanging key trace minerals and this bioavailable silica. So it's giving the body the key type of orthosilicic acid that it needs from its main source. And that continual process a couple times a day, usually morning and night, gives your body the frequencies of what it needs to say, okay, now I can do this, now I can do this, I can do this, I can flush these things better, I can clean out my liver. Oh, you had a joint injury 20 years ago, and now that we're cleaning up the heavy metals that are blocking that healing process, and when those go away, you have the silica that goes in so the body can start regenerating and rebuilding that area. And so it's really unique. And this is where the reversal of aging really comes in, because of giving the body the tools it needs. It's our level of understanding without using our mind, our brain to try to comprehend or remember. Our body actually doesn't have a memory of problems. It just fixes stuff when it happens, if it can. And if it's something that's happened a while ago, if you're older like me and you're in your 40s or in your 50s and you've beat yourself up a little bit, sometimes you get those aches and pains. And you can typically go, you know what, I remember when I was running track and I blew up my hamstring. And if I try to run now, my hamstring pulls. So you get a reminder. But if you give the body the tools it needs that it can rebuild those areas, then you can go for a run and you go, wait, I'm actually running again. And because your body has no memory of what it did, it just said, okay, we fixed that. Let's go play. And I think that's the beautiful part of this operating system. We are made in the same image of greatness, right? And that's really our mantra, to create greatness, because we're not made to be well. We are made to be great. But the pursuit of greatness is the challenge, because it's not easy, right? And that's why we always appreciate it in different aspects. If you listen to someone playing the piano like you have behind you, and someone can play a concerto, and you watch their fingers and you hear the sound, and it's like nothing you've ever seen before, you appreciate that level of performance. If someone's playing a cello or a flute, specifically the jazz flute, if you like the Anchorman, you appreciate that. If you see it athletically, like when I watched replays of the Belmont, when the Secretariat ran the Belmont, that's probably the closest to perfection that we've ever seen in an athletic performance of human and animal. I still cry every time I watch that race, because it's so overwhelming to see that level of performance just be unleashed. And that's what we are made to be. So if you know that's our goal, that's our standard, and we're down here, how do we work to best improve ourselves to achieve those standards? Sometimes you'll never get there, but even if you fall short, you're like, man, I'm a lot better. I'm amazing right now. And you know there's still improvement.
It's really fascinating what you're up to, and really looking at sparking or creating the original nidus in the crystal that allows for the growth of longevity, and activated longevity is what we're talking about. So not only longevity, not just living a long time, that's partially the deal. You get to live a long time. It's like a secondary benefit from what you're speaking of, is that you get to live a long time. But it doesn't sound like living a long time is the actual goal. It sounds like living a great life is the actual goal, like actually activating the areas of what it means to be alive, what it means to be human, and what it means to pursue the level of greatness that we came here to be. Not just well, not just okay, not just surviving, not just thriving, but actually stepping towards secretariat level of excellence is where you're headed. It's a very compelling and interesting, inspiring approach that you're delivering here. I really want to congratulate and take my hat off to both you and Christina. And you're right, you're fortunate to run into Christina and then be able to work underneath this amazing human's wing about what it means to be an excellent human being is also quite inspiring. Is there anything, how do people like find you, and what is Root, and what can we know a little bit about Root so that we know how to pursue this and how to become part of it?
Root is basically the impetus from our combination when we came together. And it's, I can say that the concept has been about 20 years in the making. We introduced the concept to the market on February 2nd of 2020. So if you're thinking best time to start a new business, right at the beginning of COVID, right before everything went on lockdown. But it was also strategic because we knew it was coming because of her biotech background. She's been keyed up for 25 years from the former director of the CIA telling her when she was at Pfizer that there was no nuclear wars going to happen. It was going to be biological, and Pfizer was going to be at the forefront of it, to working with the Chinese government nine years ago, having friends over there in Wuhan, being to Wuhan before. She had some interesting insight from people as to what was coming. And so she really, because of her innate level of intelligence, I'll put it that way, understood how to create solutions to address this aging process, but also address what was to come, because she was given some insight that what we were going to deal with was going to be 5 years. It was going to be biological. The first 2 years were going to be bad. The last 3 years were going to be horrific. So we're going into year 4 of this journey. It's going to get ugly. What Root came from was taking the concepts that she was creating to really take care of humanity, but then understanding the principles of what we have to do. We know we have to get back to our roots. And we talk about that constantly in really every aspect of life. You got to get back to your roots. You want to go back home. You want to figure out what the root cause of issues are. So we took what she created, but from a business approach, I did something a little bit unique because of how we've changed as a society. And one of the things that I really didn't like is how corporations act as vacuums. That a company might introduce a product to a market, they don't share their revenue. They keep all the money. They spend the advertising money on social media, but then they keep all the revenue. And what's interesting, and if you look at this, it's really apparent that it's our human behavior, because we are all networked, right? We are a biological computer and we are a network of computers. We are all connected. And now we're 6 degrees from 6.5 billion people when we used to be 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. And with that connectivity, it is us, it is our behavior, our connectivity that creates value for all these companies. So I created an algorithmic fintech ecosystem that is Root, to allow us to bring products and solutions and collaborations to our community. And we launched it on February 2nd of 2020, and we've gone from 0 to about 70 countries in 3.5 years now, and done over 120 million, I think $120 million in revenue in that time. Put over 40 to 50 million dollars in people's pockets for actually creating all the value. Because if you find something you like, whether it's through conversations like this or you're doing your research online, and you find something and it's beneficial to you, maybe it changes your life, maybe it improves some of the things you do one of two things. You either tell those people around you about it, or they ask you. And in so doing, you're creating value. The goal then, from my side, if companies are going to participate in humanity the way that they should, it's this circular economy. It's the creation of value for everyone. That if your customers create value for you as a business, you should reward them for the behavior for 2 reasons. 1, they created it. 2, if you reward it, they'll do more of it.
Of course.
And that's really the concepts. And what we've built off of that, I think we're the only company that actually has a research registry for tracking quality and cost improvement and tracking outcomes, because We basically function like a pharmaceutical and biotech company because that's where she comes from. She's worked with the FDA, the NIH, all the main research entities and doing research and understanding if you're going to be here over the long term, whether it's communicating with government agencies. And many people look at, oh, if you're natural products, you're going against the FDA and you're going against pharma. That's actually not true. There's a symbiotic relationship that you can have if you play the game. If you're playing baseball and you have everybody that's playing baseball, don't bring a football, bring a
Right.
baseball glove and a bat.
Right.
Right. And know, hey, you know what? I know the rules. This is the game we're going to play. Great. Let's play it together. You know what? I might come in and hit a couple home runs and steal a few bases really quickly. And you might look at me like, wait, you're doing things differently.
Right.
Yes, we've had time to look at how the game is played, and we've found that these things are better at doing it. And it's that key component of adapting to the environment and understanding what's going on that is so crucial. We can't do things the way that we used to do them because those things are old. Time changes everything, time changes us. We have to adapt, right? And this is the important conversation about virology and the environment. The environment is changing. Is it global warming? No, it's not. Is it carbon dioxide? No, it's not. Trees convert carbon dioxide into sugar and
Yeah.
oxygen. It's
Exactly.
not a problem,
Yeah.
right? And but it is the factors of what's in the environment, things that have been sprayed, things that have been released, things that are just naturally produced, volcanic eruptions emitting massive amounts of heavy metals. So we have all of these different components that affect us and that we have to become better. So if we're not doing the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves, we will become a victim of that environment and we won't have the ability to live a long life because it's the key point you said. We want to live a long time. The living aspect is the ability to do all this stuff. You don't want to just be alive because if you want to look at the difference between those things, take a little bit and go to a nursing home. Look at people in a nursing home that are laying in a bed that are
Yeah.
just alive. There's no quality of life. It's a burden financially on families and everything else. Or go look at the people that are out playing golf and going for a walk in the woods and going swimming and doing whatever they want. Go, which one do you want? Do you want to be alive or do you want to live?
Exactly.
That in essence is the nature of everything that we do.
Beautiful. It's fantastic. And what it really, you're up to such beautiful things. I totally am moved by who you are. And how can people find you? What's the best way to find Clayton Thomas?
Well, you can find me on socials. I'm banned on most of them because of my opinions, as we've talked about. They don't like me very much, but you can find me on Instagram. I think the best way is to go to YouTube and look up the Root Brands
Okay.
and dive into some of our content. There's a couple hundred hours of content because education is like really important to us.
Yeah.
You can basically get a PhD in environmental toxicology on our channel. But then go to the rootbrands.com and then you can use code product, I think, to get some information. And we can create a link for you, Dr. Fred, that we can put
Yeah.
down here that
Sounds good. Beautiful.
people can find as well.
Awesome. It's really great, Clayton. Thanks for being here. It's really nice to meet you and vicariously nice to meet Christina as well. Thanks for doing exactly what you're doing and really remarkable contribution to humanity. It's beautiful to have you here, clearly, and the epitome of a healed healer. And that's what that's what we like to have on the show. So thanks for being here, Clayton. Really wonderful to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Take care, everybody, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.